Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Lions versus the Crusaders, the Super Rugby Final for 2017. First up, congratulations to the Crusaders on number 8. They have more titles than anyone else. They're the most decorated side in Super Rugby. And not only that, they made history by crossing the Indian Ocean and winning a Super Rugby Final for the first time ever. So a number of history making points already. Obviously, if the Lions had won, that would have been their first title and would have been history that way. So it's going to be a history-making day, whichever way it went. So the Crusaders won 17-25 in the end. And I thought initially the Crusaders were very clinical in getting that lead and getting their opening 2 tries. After that, though, I saw them go down into the Lions 22, camp on the Lions 5-metre line and not come away with points. And I wondered if that was going to hurt them later on. But no, their defence held up. They kept the Lions at bay. I thought the Lions would do a bit more pick and go rather than spreading it, because the previous week that's what worked against the Hurricanes when they weren't committing at the breakdown. And the Crusaders were doing the exact same thing. They weren't committing at the breakdown. We saw them not good at the breakdown against the Chiefs. This was no surprise. This is how we expected the Crusaders to defend. So I was a bit surprised by some of the Lions' tactics there. Perhaps they were trying to run the Crusaders off their feet by spreading it a bit more and catch them in that last 20 minutes. The Crusaders held out, importantly, at that 30-minute mark, where the Hurricanes the Hurricanes conceded a try, and the Lions sort of got back into that game. But the Crusaders weathered that one well. Obviously, that's when the red card was picked up, which I'll come on to later. Early subs from the Crusaders in the second half. I mean, a couple came out at half time, and the front row were replaced on around about 50 minutes, I think, or at least the props were. Showed that the Crusaders have got strength in depth in this side. They trust their bench, they trust those players, and they also knew how to keep fresh players on the pitch. Were fully expectant of altitude to take its effect, and were trying to keep people fresh before they got too tired, and bring players on who they know could last that amount of time as well. So this was a meticulously organised, planned Crusaders game. And I think they did extremely well in that mark. I think the Lions just lacked execution, especially in that second half. 2 or 3 key lineouts that they got turned over. They won all of their kind of not so key lineouts, but then there was one on the 5-metre line and a couple of others that they lost that I think particularly Whitelock got in the way of and turned over. So that was a big one. You could say they played until they made a mistake. So quite a few. They played several go-through phases and then knock it on. But that is exactly what the Crusaders did to the Chiefs as well. So I'm not sure this was so much the Lions' issue as more the Crusaders' defence, and perhaps that's where the credit needs to go. I don't think the Lions played particularly badly, and they played pretty well. They just couldn't break down that scrambling defence. There was the red card, and for me that was correct. He did take out the player in the air. Even if it wasn't deliberate, I don't think he deliberately took the player out, but he came into contact with the player flipped over and landed on his neck region. So under the laws, that's a red card. Obviously that made it more difficult for the Lions, but you didn't see the Crusaders outflanking them, so I think the Lions actually coped with that very well. I think they managed that, managed their play, their defensive patterns, considering the missing player well there. The Lions did pick up the pace and get that try, but they were still making errors at key times. Faf came on and did speed things up, but he also picked the ball up with one hand out of the bottom of a ruck and looked away and then bashed the ball against someone's leg, so he dropped it and it was a knock-on. Little errors like that, little lack of concentration, little lack of execution make a big difference at this level. And I think that's where that was the key difference between the two sides, was that key bit of execution. I think there was a feeling amongst many of us that the Lions needed to get a lead and make the Crusaders play. The Crusaders love to get in a lead and make you play and then feed off errors. and with the Lions not getting that lead and the Crusaders getting that early 12-point lead, that made a big difference, and the Crusaders got to play their game plan the way they wanted to play. They were kept comfortable. Now, we've seen the Lions come back over the last 2 weekends in games, but that's so again, it's perhaps also the Lions' game style as well, but it meant that the Crusaders weren't put out of their comfort zone, and they could just go through their phases and play the way they know how to they needed to play. So again, congratulations to the Crusaders on number 8. Commiserations to the Lions. It's been a very good season for them. Let's be honest, they've only lost 2 games. They've made back-to-back Super Rugby finals and has shown there is quality outside of New Zealand. They are deservedly hosting a home final in this. I say congratulations to the Crusaders. Again, gone through with just that 1 loss up in Wellington to the Hurricanes. Have managed to travel overseas, make history, and what a great opening season for Scotty. Wonderful little break dance at the end. You can see the video on my Twitter feed if you want to. Got to feel sorry for the kit man who's going to have to wash the grass stains out of that shirt, but it's good to see them all enjoying the victory and celebrating nicely. Thank you for watching. That's obviously the end of the Super Rugby season. On Tuesday night, I will be joined on #RugbyChat when we're going to go through and review every single team and give them all a grade out of A, B, C or D as to how they did compared to pre-season expectations. So do join us. That'll be a Twitter chat as well as a live video stream on YouTube, and you can also catch the recording on the podcast as well if that's how you like to consume it. So do sign up for one of those for that. I've got some great guys joining me to have that chat. Thank you very much. It's been a great weekend. Time for me to get back to the gardening, and hope you all enjoyed the rugby.